This is Ndtv. And you're watching Ndtv Hindu.
Hello and welcome to SL Chennai Speaks Out Season 2. I'm Sanjay Pinto. Today they say it's easier to find a job than to quit one. And that's because gone are the days when you could say freshers can't be choosers. Even before youngsters pass out of their colleges, they are swarmed with multiple job offers. And a corporate boss today has to be like a good shepherd and do anything to keep his flock together and beat those attrition blues. Have corporates today become insecure about their employees, that they have to actually pin them down with a written, signed and sealed document called an employment bond? Or have employees today begun to treat their jobs like a marriage of convenience and follow the doctrine till the next offer do us part? Ladies and gentlemen, employment bonds, is it a case of entrapment or discipline? That's the bone of contention on SL Chennai Speaks Out. This is our panel. Joshua Madan Samuel, CEO of Covenant Consultants.
Yeah, hi.
Venkat Subramanian, Regional Manager Asia Pacific of NALCO. Both Joshua and Venkat will say that it's not an employment bond, it's a covenant.
Absolutely.
On the other side of the motion, Neena John, Corporate Trainer and the Head of NV Communications. And Mr. E. Balaji, the Director and President of MAFA Randstad. Both Neena and Balaji say that it's all about discipline and it's no case of entrapment really. So without much ado, it's over to our first round called First Shot.
Geography is now history, as the internet has proved. And if we're talking about bonds, let's trace the fact that when Silicon Valley geeks invented the computer, and went on with the internet to make this a global industry, we found that across India, vast employment opportunities opened up. With TCS and Infosys establishing the Indian IT industry as a global entity, we find that today we have employment for everyone in India itself. The DOPSOP, the Dollar Operating Software Professional, is now a reality in India itself. In the early days of Silicon Valley, we had body shopping, where we had people taken from the IITs, then the regional engineering colleges, and then the private engineering colleges being looked at as human resources. For me, it's a simple supply and demand situation that dictates at any given point whether it is the employer or the employee that is ruling the roost. So as we find that demand grew for people, we find that supply grew in the form of any number of engineering colleges sprouting up all over India, especially Tamil Nadu. So today we're talking about the fact that if body shopping was the norm at one time, later, the scarcer the resource, the more people were likely to go, again, headhunting, poaching, doing all these kind of things, and if employees were going to be lured away by another competitor, what is an organization going to do to safeguard its own interests, to ensure that the organization survives as an entity in the long term, and most importantly, that the organization can serve customers with a long-term strategy? We have to have safeguards to ensure that there are people, and if freshers come in, lured by different kinds of offers, they come in because they're lured first of all by the brand name of a big company, and the minute the training is over, they're poached by somebody else. As freshers, when you join, let me tell you, the first 6 weeks are when you discover you have learned nothing in the 4 years of college. So I'd say for that first year, consider it a learning experience, Consider it a time for you to understand yourself and the industry and think of an agreement between your organization and you as a security net for you to say, 1 year I'm here, I'm going to study what it's like, and then I will go on, increase value for myself and my company, and go on from here. So I think it's actually a win-win situation to have an agreement in place for at least 1 year to 18 months for any organization.
All right.
Over to you.
The story of ESOPs and DOPSOPs and dollops, what's your take?
Ina's talking about, employees get all what they want and dollars and, use it as a training. I'm reminded of a joke. It goes like this, that a man prayed and he looked at God and he said, God, how much is 1,000 years to you? And God looked at him and said, 1,000 years is just like 1 second for me. And he thought for a while and he again said, God, one more question, how much is 1,000 crores to you? And God replied saying, 1,000 crores is just like 1 rupee for me. So this guy was very excited, and he looked at God and he said, God, can you give me, 1 rupee? Thinking that God will give him 1,000 crores. And God looked at him, thought for a while and said, why not? I'll give you that 1 rupee, in a way, 1,000 crores, but just give me a second, So, what Nina is talking about is like, a typical story where an employee goes up to his boss and the company and says, boss, give me this, give me that. And the boss says, yeah, why not? Just give me a second, We will get you, but that second might be years together. I mean, for me, it's very simple, This is, the employment bonds is a very negative way of looking at things. You got to look at positive ways. There are so many good retention strategies in place where you can keep that, as a, as a tool. I mean, it's like this. For me, loyalty is in the heart. You go to an India-Australia cricket match, you support India, not because BCCI pays you, but it's in your heart. For me, loyalty is in the heart. Right? I also want to tell one more point, relationship bond is better than an employment bond. I'm fair, I'm absolutely fine about a bond, but not an employment bond. Why don't you make it more of a relationship bond? See, this is an old myth, that people quit for money and, people quit because once they get trained and, they have a better, company to go. I feel it's a myth, If you can retain the person by giving a lot of positive retention strategies, I'm sure this is going to be a success.
Joshua, that's the reason why they say employee engagement, because neither end up getting married.
All right, that's a good one. It's over to the bond man now.
Yeah, I think I wanted to first start in a context of, I don't think we should get stuck in a concept of bond. First, let's look at this as an employment contract. Yeah, when you sign up for a house as a tenant, you sign up a contract. It has a lot of clauses in that. Similarly, when you go and take a loan, a house loan, a car loan, or a two-wheeler loan, you sign a contract with your banker. So there are clauses. Similarly, when you sign up, and which is on your own volition, nobody is forcing anybody to sign a contract with a company, you are signing a contract. Yeah, it has various clauses. It has clauses of how much salary somebody gets paid, what is the agreement on confidentiality, what is the agreement on data privacy, data security issues, and similarly, there is also a clause on either non-compete or notice periods. My first argument is there is too much made out of bond. Bond, I think, is just one component in an overall contract of service between an employer and an employee. Now, let me elaborate this. We live in a country which generates 2 million graduates every year. 300,000, 3 lakh engineers pass out. International studies show only 25% of our graduates are ready to be employed. That is the statistics. If you look at any recognized studies done by any international agency, it's only 25% of the people who are fit enough to kind of take the job for the first 15 to 18 months. The person is, if I have to use the IT terminology, is a non-billable resource. The company is investing in the person. The company is training the person to understand how an organization works, what are the processes, what are the methodologies, and things like that. After about 15 to 18 months, the person become a productive employee. And at that point of time, if the person is, if the person is leaving, what happened to the investment the organization is making? Anybody who is joining the military service as an officer, try getting out in the first 2 years. Try it out. Anybody who is joining IAS, or you are a civil servant, try joining there. Even after 2 years, 3 years, you just say, I'm getting bored of IAS, I want to leave because somebody else is giving me a job. You can't. So the whole concept of, in the government sector, you try it out with the PSU banks. PSU banks have bonds. You try it out with PSUs of any Navaratna companies. They all have bonds. So what I'm trying to say is, bonds is just a component of a service contract which an employee signs up. I think it benefits both the individual and the employees and the employer. And this has been there for hundreds of years, and this is nothing unusual. And I think it is essentially the question of return on somebody's investment.
I see no merit in employment bond. What is it aimed at? Is it aimed at retaining people? I think it's an indemnity against internal management failing, because if they really want to retain people, it's up to the manager to mentor, motivate, and retain people. That's what we learn in management school. So this is just a tool to intimidate, or it's a procedure, I would say. Supreme Court has several times ruled out that such an employment bond is not justiciable at all. It's just a moral bond. So I feel that it's an indemnity that they want to try and equate the value of money towards a human resource. A resource cannot be valued in terms of just 75,000 rupees or 1 lakh rupees. It's very, very mundane, I would say. Okay. In these days of mergers and acquisitions, where companies are acquired, who do you work for anyway? Do you know who you will be working for 2 years from now? This company could have been bought by somebody else. Their policies could be different. People who want to leave the company, they leave for their own reasons beyond the company profile. It could be a poor boss. It could be, a relocation. So if the companies think wise, strategically, they could probably get the employee back well equipped, better employee back in the company. But if you impose a bond, probably this guy who leaves, the girl who leaves, would never come back. He or she could go with a bad taste.
Well, time now to slide into a short break on SL Chennai Speaks Out. When we come back, I will grill both the teams. Stay tuned.